Previously.
As if there's an altar that they sit there, slip on his heart.
Midnight, where the stars and you. Midnight, and a rendezvous. Your arms held a message tender, saying I surrender all my love to you.
So as we've seen, unless you are willing to bodily hurl yourself and sacrifice basically your entire life to the cause of politics, you are left with the regular things of life, which is what makes up everything in life, because in politics, politicians don't create anything. They just use the resources that others have made, and they do so in very sloppy, haphazard fashion. So nowadays, it's the least unvirtuous who get it.
Yeah.
If you are a decent person and you get involved in politics, expect to have your entire existence shredded. That's where we're at. Now, as Bill Burr, he said when Obama was elected, is Obama going to make you a sandwich? No, you do that, and you're going to keep doing that. That's where you're at. It's, mind you, the little things. People, when they invest so much of themselves into the political outcomes, they're taking should be a personal life, and they're putting it into this abstract political box, and it's sort of a religion, and what happens generally is that they're disappointed. Or, when they're, as I think, delusional, then they'll be cheering the Friday 6 inaugural and all of that. Finally, the decent people have come back into power. They are, of course, deceived, as far as I can tell, but unless you want to be disappointed, I would say you're going to have to focus on the things around you. And most importantly, your relationships with other people. Because these politicians, however far away they happen to be from you, I don't expect them to acquit themselves nobly. Especially the third act Obama stringers, or whatever you want to call them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to kind of ride the coattails on that one there, if you do want to influence politics in any way, local level is where your elections are, your national election is won. Do not forget the electoral
fortifying
fraud that happened didn't happen in one lump sum in one spot. It was a few thousand in this town, a couple thousand in that town, a few hundred here, over and over and over, nationwide. A couple thousand in one town is not going to sway a presidential election, but 100 in every town will.
Right.
It adds up very quickly.
And in terms of the actual mechanisms that were used to
fortifying
rig the election, that is every key district. You're talking maybe a dozen people involved.
Right.
So that
I would say, if you want to get involved and make it so that it's harder for them to do this next time, and when I say them, I'm talking the statist mono-party system we have right now. And yes, half of you probably don't even know what rhino means. What we call Republicans rhinos. It's Republican in name only. They are not classic Republican or classic Democrats, classic conservative, classic liberal. They are now statists. These people have been in so long that they live in the Washington bubble.
Yeah, all go to the same parties.
Same parties, the same church,
breathe the same air.
Mm-hmm. No matter how stagnant it is.
Sniff the same farts.
Yep, pretty much.
Most of the people who voted for Donald Trump have many issues with the Republican Party.
Yes, you do. Big time. You're going to need to get involved, get voting on your local level. So your city councils, your state senate, it should be the highest that you worry about actually influencing with your vote. Because it's the state senate that decides how your vote should be used by the electoral college in your state. And there's a couple things that I would love to see mandated. Not this presidency, because you know damn good and well they're not going to. They hate the electoral college unless they can
fortifying
rig it for themselves. First and foremost, every state, and this is something you need to start pushing in your state, forcing your state senate to make this decision. Every state should have an electoral college of its own, strengthening the concept of the electoral college. That way there's no flyover counties. And what does flyover mean? Quite literally, the politician flies his plane over it to land in the next city.
Yeah,
completely missing the small town, the rural areas, where your crops are grown, where your food is created, where your industry. Most iron mills are on the Great Lakes. Portland has one, New York has one, I think LA has 4, but the mass majority of the steel in anything you use was originally created in the Great Lakes region. The Rust Belt has been flyover, except for Detroit. For how long?
Well, Detroit would like to fly over itself.
White flight.
I wish they would. Maybe they could turn themselves over and start becoming productive again. But, it's kind of hard to be productive when your city council wants everybody on fucking welfare.
It's always the garden spots. Detroit was one of the gems of...
It was beautiful. Motor City, USA. It was gorgeous. Wow. I was just getting into school itself when the downfall of Detroit began. This is back very, very early 90s. There was the downfall, not the slow descent to it, which was happening since the 70s.
Skyscrapers full of hobos.
Yeah, but the actual downfall, the actual collapse of Detroit. And you can thank the early versions of NAFTA and all that.
Now we can see a new world coming into view. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order.
Because the precursor to that, World Trade Agreements, GATT, and all those, slowly started making it harder for these industries to operate in America, and it became cheaper to go overseas, have it produced and shipped. That even though the tariffs were higher, it still was cheaper.
Right. Well, the death of the muscle car in the United States was done deliberately as a matter of policy. Around the late 70s.
Yeah.
And then in conjunction with that, they had the
completely unconstitutional.
The unions, of course, demanding way too much money.
Oh, God. I'm sorry. Death to the freaking union. The concept of the union, on paper, hey, great. Now take every communist that infiltrated and started running the fucking thing, castrate them, and hang them up for everybody to fucking see.
Well, metaphoric.
Yeah, metaphorically.
Well, you gotta beware the
but
communists.
It is on the local level that you will win.
That's
but
right.
You also need to start demanding of your state government to force these people in the federal government to start strengthening things like the Electoral College. The Electoral College actually protects your vote because now everybody's voice does matter. Your vote is supposed to sway the person who is voting in your stead as a group.
Well, and of course, unless you live inside a solipsistic bubble in L.A. where you think that your thoughts are the thoughts of everybody else, except for the bad people.
Except for the bad people. Welcome to the fucking hive mind. Have you noticed that? About, not L.A. so much, San Francisco. Have you seen the, quite literal, it's almost like they're pumping something into the water or the air. I've watched road cams. And people are almost walking in lockstep with each other. Stop! I mean, and it's not even
gadgets out and they're walking.
But it's not even a collapse in on itself at a stoplight. It's everything goes and stops as a block.
Well, at least we're not in the 1950s level of conformity. Oh wait, we're well beyond any kind of 1950s level of conformity. Yes.
Yeah, we don't have the hope that we used to have.
The mask. Well, for example, the mask mandate is basically for these people like a way to signal that I am a good person, I care, and
yep, it's all about what's the term I'm looking for?
Virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling. Thank you.
And they have no virtue.
Yeah.
It sounds harsh to say it that way, but
well, the truth has no time for a person's feelings. That's why you have to shatter the facade to see the wall behind, because you can't fix the wall unless you tear the facade off.
It reminds me of something that Frank Zappa said.
The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will just take down the scenery. They will move the chairs and tables out of the way. And you will see the brick wall at the back of the theater.
Roll up all the banners and bunting, and you'll see the brick wall at at the end of it.
And there are few things as unmovable as a solid brick wall. The truth will stand, but you have to take all the stuff in front of it away.
And there's a lot of peer pressure, like to black pill, or to cheer the good people coming back into office, as if that's a thing. The mechanism is largely a peer pressure. So what you have to do is you have to just say, okay, I have my principles that I'm living by. These people clearly have their priorities, such as they are. For anybody with eyes to see, that's the choice. That's where we're all at. And that's where we've always been, actually, to choose between these false idols of politics or actual relationships.
Yep.
So raw power is the foundation of government.
Well,
Raw human power,
Yeah.
naturally. The
That's-
nuclear bomb, for example.
Yep. Well, and that's why Heinlein's speech in Starship Troopers, not the movie, the book.
Take a look, it's in a book.
About the vote being force. We, the people, are actually more powerful than the government by constitutional standard, because it is from the people that the government is built. It is by the people that the people who lead are given the job to do so. The vote is force, and force in any way is violent. The vote is an extremely violent, thematically and philosophically violent thing that is done without shedding blood. It is the most powerful thing you have constitutionally.
I would say it's done without shedding much visible blood.
Right, unfortunately.
It's a sublimated process.
Yes. It is the most powerful right you have. And frankly, I see a lot of people who say a person with a felony shouldn't have the right to vote. Why not? Well, they showed that they couldn't be responsible with any of the other rights.
Well, if unindicted co-conspirators can be politicians, I don't see the problem with felons voting. Really.
Well, a big misnomer, now that we're in a time when we've actually seen as many as 50% of the nation having spent some kind of incarceration.
Well,
you have
3 felonies a day, so
yeah.
I aim for 4, 5, 6, 7 felonies.
Right.
I want to limit myself.
Just kidding.
When you see that, historically, newly released felons, because of the indoctrination of prisons, they call it institutionalization, it's very structured. It's very, someone else has control of your life.
Yeah.
And which is actually a very progressive way of thought.
Some people need the structure.
Yeah, they need the structure, but the concept, they tended to vote blue for the longest time because it was the liberal mind. It was the liberal mind that allowed a person, instead of forcing a person to stay in prison for the rest of their life for very, very petty offensive or severe punishments for petty offenses. The blue side of politics looked to rehabilitation. Yeah. Now, it's very much different. It's very opposite. Most people that are coming out of prisons aren't coming from inner cities. And even if they are, they're coming out with a different mindset because of how you have to survive. You have to be a capitalist. You have to be self-sufficient. You have to be a go-getter. You have to do these things. Who are the people that do that? People with conservative mindsets, people with conservative thought processes. I can't trust the government or someone above me to give me everything I need. I have to go and do it. And that's where you get the mindset of hard work.
Hustle.
And the hustle. It's just smart.
Yeah.
So, I see what you're for, sorry. See you all over the place.
I bought my clothes at Columbo Pockets Unlimited, so...
One more thing.
One more question, sir, about those sacks of gold.
Just one more
I love
thing.
him. He was such an amazing actor.
Peter Falk. He's got his eyeball going.
Oh, I love that glass eye stare he had. Just look over here and still be looking at you.
Oh, he totally used it to great effect.
Oh, yes. It's beautiful.
Remember when he played Castro in The Twilight Zone?
I did not
and
see
he was
that episode.
ranting in his paranoia. Oh, it was brilliant.
Beautiful. But from the local level, you are going to win the national election. That is the only way you can do it.
If you don't mind the little things, then the great things will go astray. That's just how it works mathematically in relationships. And so it might be a very new idea, and it might be very daunting in many ways to think that maybe you should be useful, to be dependable, have virtues that other people are attracted to.
Yep.
And then you have friends, family, friends, community. Everything grows out from there.
Yep.
If you want to drain the swamp, you have to drain your own swamp.
Yep. I've had a saying for several years now, and I think there's actually ancient philosophers who have also expressed a similar mindset. In the history or future of this species, not a single one of us individually matters to the species. If I passed away tomorrow, I got in a car wreck, and my wife never got to see me again, and all that stuff, that doesn't affect somebody down in California who's still working every day.
Well, this is contrary to what John Donne said in his poem about the death of any man diminishes me. I don't understand poetry that well, so I don't pretend to know what he meant. But I really don't, especially that one. No, you're right. And we have a social media, gateway. Microsoft is a Windows.
Nope.
Television. You've got your gadgets. You have what you think is a wide world to look at. The problem is most of it's none of your damn business.
For what?
You have no control over what happens. If something blows up in Madrid, what are you going to do?
The Beirut blast.
The Beirut
What
blast?
the hell? I mean, there were firefighters that just arrived, got out of the truck, and they were literally never seen again.
Vaporized.
Yeah, it was so powerful. Here's the tragic beauty of
So this is
the
how
concept.
you make it not black-pilled.
Yes, this is how you make it not black-pilled. If I don't matter to the species, I get to choose who I matter to.
Right, tremendous power.
Exactly. That should be the most empowering thought any man gets. And I pray that some 14-year-old who's on the verge of suicide because nobody likes him, he doesn't have any friends and all this stuff. Believe me, I've been there. I got my nose broke. I've been pushed downstairs. I was bullied.
Well,
Until 10th grade, I joined wrestling, and people realized, oh, God, this guy can pick somebody up and throw him across the room. That's awesome.
Excellent.
The empowerment of knowing that no longer do I have to matter to a group of people. I can choose a different group of people. I can bring into me the people I wish to matter to.
Now, there's a romantic allure to a contrary view, which is portrayed pretty well in Dickens.
Jalebi.
Yep.
Where you outsource your empathy. You have people close by that you should be caring about, or you might care about them if you wanted to. But instead you care about the remote, the people over there. They're the ones I care about. And everything about my whole operation here domestically is wrapped around that. So your family is miserable. You care about strangers, or you don't really. But you say to yourself that you do. And then you can feel very good about yourself while making everybody around you miserable.
Well, and it's
including yourself.
Yeah. It's the altruistic pearl clutching syndrome that we see a lot of today with the whole, oh gosh, the 90s was bad with this. The very late 80s and very early 90s was especially rough. Hands to heal, and then hands
across America,
and then hands around the world, and rocking Rio with what all the SJ, even back then, SJW bullshit that was all about.
Don't play Sun City.
Yeah, these charity ballads and all this stuff, and you sit there going, you really honestly think that you wearing a freaking ribbon is going to affect any real change? How about instead of wearing the ribbon, wearing a pink ribbon, how about you go to college, you get a master's in chemical engineering and biology, and start figuring out how to cure it, how to prevent it from the beginning.
Well, do you want the ambience, or do you want to actually do something? That's
the laziness. Ultimately, that's what it is to me, laziness. You feel good because you're pretending to do something, right, while not actually doing anything. That's like...
That's a lot of politics. That's a lot of what passes for philanthropy, and the two are connected.
And it's like just running warm water over your dishes and putting them away. Did you actually clean them? No.
Well,
But did
I
you
mean,
feel
look,
good
if you
about
do-
pretending to do something? Sure.
From my perspective, there's an infinity of difference between a wife and a blow-up doll. But if you don't care, then there's no difference.
The toy works, and it's very true.
It's the real thing, like a real diamond or gem or something precious, versus the fugazi.
Yeah, fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust. It doesn't exist. It's never landed. It is no matter. It's not on the elemental chart. It's not fucking real.
The fake. Side by side, in the real world, you always have the real things versus the fake things. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people like the fake things.
Nope. Well, and
costume jewelry, I mean, I'm not knocking costume jewelry, but it's fake.
It's fake.
You can wear it if you'd like, but if you take it very seriously, I think you'll be missed.
There are a few things you can do to help you get to the mindset of, I get to choose. First off, just downsize. If you have 782 friends on your Facebook page, how many of them do you actually know? If you don't know them, tell them, hey, I'd like to meet up. If they say, they get flaky, delete them. If you haven't talked to the person in a year, delete them.
Scrape them off.
I'm gonna give you some advice, Claire. Scrape them off.
Get rid of the extra baggage, because their baggage, when you see it on Facebook, on any of these social media platforms, is going to draw you down. And right now, if you're in the nihilistic moment of your life where you're looking at the rope and going, you know what, it's not even worth it because I probably wouldn't be cut down for 10 days.
I can't even tie a knot.
I can't even tie a knot. So now I'm just going to live miserably. To keep yourself from getting into that mindset, you need to downsize. And a great way to start is to downsize your house. You're going to need to anyway right now. Get rid of anything that has no value to you. A clean house is going to make you feel better.
And you're going to have to reevaluate your sentiments.
Yes.
Because you'll find most of your friends aren't. Maybe they are. In these moments, these great clarifying, crystallizing inflection points of history, you're going to learn who your real friends are.
Yep.
And you may well have a bunch of people you considered friends for a long time, and now you find that they're not. Mm-hmm. And you have to resolve that in yourself. Say, well, what did I do to attract these people? What deception was I engaging in? Mm-hmm. With myself and with these other people.
Or perhaps I wasn't engaging in a deception. Maybe I do have a quality that attracts people.
Yeah. Well,
so use that to attract the right people.
Right. And maybe it isn't them, maybe it's me.
Right? So downsizing physically will help. It will help you get into the mindset of, okay, I've cleaned up my physical. Now maybe I need to clean up my digital.
In terms of the crushing, crippling depression, if you pick one little thing to do and then you do it, you're going to be amazed at how much better you feel. So even if it's just a little patch of floor, whatever it is, we can only take care of the things that we can actually take care of.
Right.
We're limited. We're not. If you feel like the whole world is on your shoulders, you got to change your whole view. The world is not on your shoulders.
Because the world doesn't care enough to
stand
on it.
The people that like the fake things are going to keep engaging in the fake things. Mm-hmm. And you will not be able to change their minds. Maybe they'll change their minds later, but you're not going to have any direct impact. Yeah, maybe I'm not a human whisperer. Maybe there's a human whisperer out there who can just talk to these sorts of people and change their minds. But I think generally people change their own minds.
Yeah.
With input from wherever over time.
Yep.
And a radical change of your mind is something that is horrifying.
Absolutely.
You have to say what I was wrong fundamentally in a profound way. And why was that?
It's probably from a...
Why people avoid changing their minds even about little things is because it could lead to these bigger things that you can change your minds about.
Despite the fact that changing your mind is a natural course in a man's life. I don't think the same way I did 10 years ago. I just don't.
You know, unless you're a fully fashioned, mature person right out of the gates, which is pretty unheard of.
Yeah,
you are going. If you want to be an infant, you might have to change your mind.
Yeah, but don't just change your mind just because the whims.
Ignore the peer pressure. Actually, have real principles and analyze things from that perspective. The first principles. You don't have to go along with the herd.
No.
Nietzsche was right about herd morality being a big danger. It's what allowed us to survive over time as a species. It's also what enables these horrid atrocities to occur.
But my mother just binged me a happy birthday. Thank you, Mommy.
If it's like City Slickers, or Billy Crystal gets called from his mother, it's 6 a.m. and the 23rd of whatever, and he gets this big speech. Big, beautiful baby.
Why can't you come visit your mother?
Visit your mother.
Networking is another big thing, and the way you network is not this for personal upkeep and psychological stability. This is more about understanding how to talk to people, how to be willing to sell something, how to accomplish something. If you can't accomplish something that you need to accomplish, then you need to find and network with people who've already accomplished that and learn how they did it and find the way that works for you. That goes into what to do, honestly, what to do next, what we're against, what we are probably getting ready to come up against. You need to learn a skill. You need to learn a tradable skill, and that will really make you feel, that will pull you out of the kind of depths of depression that I've seen only bipolar people can get into. You know, learning how to, I was a blacksmith for years. I am a metal fabricator. I've been doing metal fabrication since I was a kid, you know, so I have a tradable, experienced skill that I can use to...
And you can take it anywhere.
I can take it anywhere. Even if businesses aren't hiring, you can do it on the side with other people. Word of mouth, networking, letting people know, hey, I'm needing a little bit of extra cash. I'm trying to get my car fixed. If you or anybody you know needs blah type of work done, I am your man. You may never get a call, but at least...
closed mouth doesn't get fed.
But exactly, a closed mouth does not get fed. Or the other way, the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Grease.
Or grease.
Typical.
That's just how it works. So making sure you have a tradable. I'm not talking about, unless you're really good at marketing, crochets and knits, they're great. People do make money on that. I would learn how to produce faster because to really make money, you want to stack them deep and sell them cheap. That's just the way
most businesses are, well, they fail. Right?
Yes, because they're coming at it from I want to make a lot of money standpoint.
Well, maybe. I mean, just ratcheting yourself up is difficult to begin with. Mm-hmm. So you got to pick something that you can do, that you can get a hold of. And if you find that you're doing earrings or whatever, then you're not making a lot of money, you segue into something else. And really, for people that they're really together, they're more like the suppliers to the gold miners than the actual gold miners.
Yep.
But it all depends what you can actually accomplish and what your goals are. Now, if you want to be a world-straddling colossus, I mean, good luck. I think you're much better off just sort of leading a quiet, kind of peaceful life if you can.
Right. Educate yourself.
All of these things, too, will help with depression, because if you don't have anything to do, then no wonder you're depressed.
Yeah.
Because you actually do have plenty to do. There's no shortage of things that could be done. If there's a labor shortage or whatever, that's because somebody's mucked around with the business.
That's because politicians have gotten way too involved.
The floors have to be swept. The ditches have to be dug. The burgers have to be made. Everybody, the supply and demand, everything is in place. We don't know what the upper bound is. I mean, Elon Musk is working on technology. It's amazing. But in the meantime, you just have to live your life. You can't expect people to hand you things.
No.
Free things are bad for you.
They really are. The old saying, there's no such thing as a free hot dog.
Even kids with chicken pox love hot dogs.
Somebody's paying for it.
Yeah.
So instead of getting the free hot dog, how about you earn enough to buy a pack?
People without something to do become ridiculous.
Yep. Well, you see it with the whole Antifa thing. Not nary a freaking one of them has any kind of real job.
Even Michel Foucault knew that. People without a job, something to do, an ouvre, they will go mad.
Yep. When it comes to education, and I've got kind of a list of bullet points that I'm looking at to make sure that I kind of stay on some kind of topic here.
No, like it's all related. For example, in education, if you're afraid of something, learn about it.
Yes, that is the fastest way to break any kind of fear or paranoia about something.
Don't wait for anybody else to break your fear about something, because they will, if you turn CNN on, of course they have every incentive to keep you afraid. Because the bread and butter of the business.
Yeah, because you're going to keep turning to them for your information. One of the big things, because my bullet point says educate and vote. This is how we're going to change that. Barring any chance of actual violent altercation that rises into something much more dangerous, much greater, and frankly, much more fracturing.
And I would leave that business to the state, because they'll do it.
Yep. Just
stay out of it and wait.
Yeah, just stay out of it and wait.
For you.
when I say educate, there's some things you don't want to read, okay? Or you want to read with and absorb the information with a really big pinch of salt. Things like anything that looks like patriot lore.
Patriot porn.
It's really
Biden will be arrested. No, not happening.
Well, not even that. Like, when I say patriot lore, I'm talking about things like the Lincoln Foundation and all of their stuff.
Oh, that's even worse. That's poisoned well stuff.
It really is, because
many people have said about Lynn Wood, he's a great democratic operator.
Yep. You see it all the time, even in history books. All of the disinformation, the rewrite of history. A lot of people aren't educated, especially in inner city. Oh, it's bad there. Any book that mentions the fact that Lincoln philosophically agreed with his opponent during a debate about
slavery. No, white supremacy. He said explicitly that insofar as there's going to be a race that's in the pole position, I want it to be the white man.
Yeah.
In the Lincoln-Douglas debates.
Thank you, Douglas. It blows when that... You get them the transcripts. You get them the actual speech.
Says he's a white supremacist in his own speech.
I've seen it. The look of sheer terror that these people have, because all of a sudden everything that they held as fact,
the entire narrative
shatters before their eyes, and they don't know what to
Cognitive dissonance.
So educate. Which means you gotta kind of start slow until your mind's opened up enough to absorb the information and go, I've got to think through this, and I need to find other sources of information related to see what the actual truth is.
You have to learn how to learn, because you've been taught how not to.
Yeah, and we are raised under what is essentially a Roman construct of a slave education.
We keep you alive to serve this ship, so row well. And live.
And why do you say slave education, Rooster? Well, amorphous and completely disembodied voice of off the internet. Why would you educate anybody to take on a single career for the rest of their life? Who does one job every day for the rest of their lives?
You would do that when things are moving much slower in the economy. But now we have things going boom, boom, boom.
It's so dynamic. Mm-hmm. But this was even back. This system was being really emplaced back in the 70s with the whole re-rise of the Confucian
institutes,
Confucian philosophies. Be content in your status.
Oh, well, and of course China, very status oriented for thousands of years, very practiced in keeping people down and in their place.
So we see the slow removal of the classical philosophers from textbooks and the multiple understandings in science, that the science teacher goes to church, but they teach the theory of evolution and how it works, but they also were not afraid to say, however, there are also other theories out there, and teaching these children to become fully formed adults who can become successful in whatever endeavor they choose to get into.
You always need to have your analysis of alternatives.
Yes. Now, we teach them in such a way that at the end of their education, be it high school or all the way through college, but especially in high school, to choose a career, then pursue it in secondary education. That way you can get the job and stay there for 20 years, and then now live off of Social Security, because Social Security has become the new pension. Companies are not incentivizing their workers to stay by having a pension, having a bank account set up for the person that has nothing to do with Social Security, so they can say, I don't want my Social Security, I make more off my pension.
Most prevailing paradigms have been wrong.
Yes, but they're also, because they don't have a pension, they're living off Social Security, but they still have to get a job again. So what job do they usually get? One that is somewhat related to the job they used to have. And guess what the Romans did? When the slave was incapable of doing the job that they were assigned, they gave him a related job that the skills can transfer over to, but doesn't break their bodies down as much, because their bodies are already broken. I don't know if anybody out there sees the parallels. If you don't see the parallel, that means you don't have any brain activity above the brainstem.
You're going to make a lot of lateral moves in life, but you do kind of want to go up.
Yes. Yeah. So,
And of course, the Prussians updated the Roman model, which is where we get the kindergarten. Basically training you how to be cogs in a factory, which is no longer in operation.
Yeah, we saw how well that worked. World War II. Anyway, or World War One. Well, no, World War II, actually.
Either one will work. Yeah.
Well, World War II, the Prussians, just before World War II, they were just run over by Hitler's blitzkrieg, and
they turned the Junkers into junk.
Yep, pretty much. So I definitely recommend reading actual history, and that means reading things that you may not agree with reading. I have actually read Mein Kampf. It is a horribly written piece of shit.
Not one of the best prison books.
No, it's not.
Wait, are you telling me that they actually have that in prison?
No.
Mein Kampf is My Struggle by a guy called Adolf Hitler. He wrote it in prison after beer hall.
I know what I know
my
who
struggle,
wrote the
thought.
book. I was just wondering. It's like
My Struggle, and he wrote this in
German.
prison, and he was in prison because he was trying to overthrow the government from a beer hall. It is Germany.
Well, you know.
There's going to be a
Oktoberfest.
You know what? That actually kind of reminds me.
Down with. Who's in charge again?
Hindenburg. No, wait. No, we like him.
This is on the topic of Mein Kampf.
Not Minecraft.
Funny you should mention that.
Uh-oh.
There was, I don't know where I saw it, but I remember seeing this video one time where it was like Christmas Day, 2020, or 2019, I don't quite recall. But there was some grandpa who, this kid's dad asked grandpa, hey, my son wants Minecraft, could you get it for him? Accidentally ends up getting Mein Kampf.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Wow. Grandpa, you need to get new batteries for your hearing aid. Christ.
That's for blasphemy.
You cocksock.
I think it might have been worse too, because I think the grandpa was German.
It'd be like a Hitler Minecraft.
Oh God.
Should have that.
But I've actually read Mein Kampf. Like I said, it is so. I've seen more coherent blatherings from a person with advanced syphilis.
That's information that
you could file Mein Kampf though under when people tell you about themselves. You should listen.
Right? We didn't see it
We
coming.
had no idea. You
published a fucking book.
Got a book out.
Irony.
Hitler's art broker was Jewish.
Yes, it was Jewish man.
They might have read it.
They might have miscalculated a bit. Could you
Way to put the in unwin.
Wow. Also, read the Communist Manifesto. Also, a very terribly written piece of work.
This was written by a man who sat comfortably in the British Museum compiling lies to fit his narrative.
Yeah, so keep that in mind. Karl Marx never worked a day in his life, as far as I'm concerned.
No, he didn't work a day.
No, he didn't. As far as anybody's concerned, he literally, the reason why he was sitting in the British Museum and not in a house is because he got kicked out of the house that he was staying in. Because he wasn't working and eating their food, telling them how to live their lives, telling them how to raise their children.
Fat Man's Diet Cookbook, right? No, and he raped his maid.
Okay, that part I didn't hear about.
Yeah,
good
he was
Lord.
a horrible human being.
His children committed suicide very romantically. So it's
Christ.
not a fun story. It's not a fun story.
Yeah.
But boy, that guy really inflicted his venom on the world. That's one for you, Marx.
Bitter prick. On fascism. By ghost written by someone else, but ostensibly by Benito Mussolini. Yes, that Benito Mussolini.
You could read the Futurist Manifesto too, which was an arch manifesto related to the fascist movement precipitated.
Yes. Read these. Learn from them the mindsets of these people.
They tell you all about themselves.
They tell you all about themselves, and then read your Constitution. Read the Federalist and the papers and the letters.
Anti-Federalists.
Read the letters between all the founding fathers, and once you hear them quoting and they actually say, as Cicero said, or as Aristophanes said, or as Sophocles said, these great Greek philosophers who understood what democracy was. It wasn't a form of government. They even would tell people the way to make a decision is through a democratic process in which things are discussed and then voted upon. This is what democracy is. It is a decision-making process, nothing more. It's not a form of government. It's not a form of...
Well, and the Greeks were certainly, in terms of politics, it was about the polis. So the city, they were close by, people generally knew. people in prominent positions. And Socrates found that most of the somebodies there, people who thought of themselves as somebodies, were actually nobodies.
Yep.
Which is where we're at right now, too.
Yeah, very much so. We're seeing the late stage of Greek democratic corruption.
They had a period of strong decadence, chest-thumping, militaristic stuff, and then they have a period of weak decadence, which is we are scum. We hate ourselves.
Oddly enough, in the case of Athens, there was also a strong amount of pedophilia?
There was.
Or was that something else?
That's where we get pedagogy. It's there's something to be frowned upon there, but there's a kernel of a reason for it.
Yeah.
But Socrates, he got it. He was the least unvirtuous guy in Athens, and so he gets it.
Yep. You see also the thing in the late stages of that, you saw quite literally the opening of freedom to do whatever. Licentiousness and decadence. And you see it happening again, where the government is trying to say all the virtuous things are unvirtuous.
Yes, the government is the sole source of virtue, and under their concept.
Not the whole, if it harms not another, if it physically does not harm another human being, do what thou wilt. They now say, even if it harms someone, do what thou wilt.
Do it, because and harming people is good, because for example, with the virus, you have a utilitarian virtue argument there, whereas you wear the mask because it saves over the people. You're a good person if you wear the mask. Meantime, the actual policies are 10 times worse than the stupid virus. And so they're not very virtuous, ruining all of these people's lives.
And then the personal false virtue of all this stuff. The person walking down the street, telling you you're a horrible person, you're going to kill someone's grandma because you're not wearing a mask, goes home and beats his wife.
Sure.
This is where I'd call the man out on his bullshit if I knew what he was doing.
If you knew what he was doing. But,
well, and
90% of the people that you pass by, you don't know. And you don't know their home life.
The guy, a man might beat his wife, but he's not going to beat the policeman. So he makes a choice.
Yep.
Picks his targets.
Yep. Picks them for survival reasons. But yeah, you're seeing this whole concept of, when I say physically hurts and harms not another, if I were to walk up to Soros right now, punch him in the nose, is there a reason that's illegal?
That assault is illegal?
Is there a reason?
I mean, I did owe you money, but...
There's a very good reason. Because that me physically contacting him with force on his nose with my fist makes it harder for him to breathe. Could cause a hospital bill. Could set him back several months in monetary needs, in medical needs. It could...
Plus, I have
affected his life in a negative fashion.
You have caused damages.
I have caused damages. I walk up to you, Dallas. You're a dirty fucking prick.
Man.
And then walk off. Did I physically harm you? Did I stop you from being able to work?
No, you just behaved in a dickish fashion.
You were being a dick, but there's nothing legal I can do about that.
Now, depending on how aggressive you came at him, you might have a case for...
But if intimidation or something
in
like
passing,
that.
Intimidation, harassment, that sort of stuff. But usually most people probably won't do that unless it's a repeat offense.
Yeah, for one. But two, there's also a fine line there that has to be very clearly demarked. There has to be that demarcation line.
There's gradations in the law.
You know, and there's a lot of gradations that should not be there. Me walking up real fast, saying that, and then walking away real fast? And why did someone walking up to you real fast intimidate you?
And this is a very real-world situation.
If I'm coming at you actually aggressively, like I'm getting ready to grab, that's intimidation. But I just step up to you real fast. But because they haven't demarked these lines on the difference between harmful and offensive, we have this gray area, a very, very, very wide gray area, and it's getting wider on what can be eventually prosecuted.
We saw that with the riots at Capitol.
Yep.
Where it was a mixed bag of nuts, including photojournalists and their pet blacks, but... I guess they saw the movie Network, and so that's traditional. But if it bleeds, it leads. So, of course, you have an incentive there to start a riot if you're a photojournalist at the Capitol with those people. So, I have seen people in, like, for example, Seattle, just driving around, going to park the car, And there's some guy walking down the street, strutting, punching the air, shouting vituperous things. I'm going to get that motherfucker. I'm going to get him. I'm going to kill him. Kill that motherfucker. And you just give that guy a wide berth. You don't
just to make sure you don't actually accidentally get punched by him because he's not paying attention.
It's your sidewalk today. I don't mind. You just give him a wide berth.
He's clearly angry with somebody who's not me, so I don't need to waste my time.
It's clear that I had nothing to do with it.
Nope. But some woman could park her car, stand up, see that, and run to a policeman. He hit me! He hit me! And he's going to jail rather than a mental institution where he needs to be. Why? Because instead of taking a second to look at it and see that he's staring into space while he's doing that,
or he's got a really good technique. Like in summer camp, there would be the guy who would go pee in the shower stall he wanted. Mm-hmm. That's his stall. He's marked his territory. This guy's got a great gimmick for having complete strutting control of the sidewalk.
That's awesome. I can see that.
Honestly, as far as urinals go, I just usually stick to the bro code.
Leave a space unless there's no space to leave. I mean...
Well, in that case, I just use the toilet.
I mean, I used to go to dirt track races, and most of those are troughs. There's no stalls, except for the actual sitters.
Oh, God, that reminds
me. So you're all just standing there? Huh, good race, huh? Yeah. Who are you betting on?
Oh, God.
You don't look down.
That reminds me of this one poor bastard who thought one of those things was a sink.
I don't want it. No, I'm not. No, I remember that story. Oh, God. Horrible.
It was filmed.
Oh, God, I remember it. Poor bastard. I'm sorry, that guy had to have been drunk. There's no way he could have been that dumb to not know that lump there was not soap.
To this end, I say, I quote Albert Einstein, two things are infinite in this universe. The universe itself and human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe.
Yep. Very, very.
He could have been drunk. He might not have been.
Right. Either way, that was a sheer show of stupidity. Make sure that you're reading, getting a hold of, archiving all the information you need. And read it. There are a couple of chemicals in the brain that are released in tandem to each other when tasks are started and completed. I can't remember the names of the hormones except for, dopamine is released when you complete something. That's your feel-good hormone. That's the same hormone that's released when you've been in bed with a beautiful woman, your beautiful wife. It's the same one that you suddenly get a massive dump when you see your child in your arms. When you have graduated high school, all of these great feelings, that's a dopamine dump for accomplishing a task. The more you do that, the more your brain releases that chemical. So starting a task releases a hormone that makes you feel good for even starting it, makes you want to continue. It may be in limited supply in your brain to start out. So putting dishes in the dishwasher, not even starting the dishwasher, but you got dishes in there, then you get a dopamine. You say, okay, that's a task completed. You feel better. Pick up a book and read a chapter. It doesn't matter what book. It could be the dictionary. Wow, you just learned a bunch of words. Task completed.
Dopamine.
I'd actually recommend The Black Company if you're going to read a book.
I mean, again, this is not
assuming you're okay with dark fantasy, that is.
I love dark fantasy. This is not a paid promotion for the book. This is just the one that Dallas really does recommend. I don't know yet. I haven't read it, but he's been pretty on par so far with books that he's recommended to me. And seeing the library that's around us and in other rooms, he knows his fantasy. I would say go for it. So read a couple chapters. Read a chapter of something. Don't pick up a newspaper. Unless you're going for the funnies and the classifieds. Don't pick up a newspaper. It is not worth the money.
Actually, you know what? If you do pick up a newspaper, use it only as material. You know, so for like paper mache, or if you're carving a pumpkin or something.
That is also very true. That's pretty much all it's worth anymore.
It's basically just cheap junk masking tape.
Yep.
Material.
Very much so.
Anything valuable in it is going to be only humor, and that's debatable at best.
Yes, it is. So make sure that you're doing something, and when I say doing something, that's why I said read actual history, because you individual, amorphous individual in the ether, are
our
going
listener, as I like to call it.
Oh, that's the term I needed? Okay. Your mind, your world is going to open up with just the nonfiction out there. Your actual history. Letters between people. Letters written from a soldier on the battlefield of the Civil War. Come to find out, he wrote a love letter to his fiancée. There have been people who have realized, oh my God, I know of this woman or this individual. Why? They're related to him.
That's how they came about.
That's how they came about. They just seeing their family in history. It became personal. Oh my God, my own family was directly affected by this war because this soldier died the next day after writing this letter. Oh, the heartbreak that she went through. But I exist. They weren't married. Either premarital, which was very taboo back then, happened, or she moved on with her life. It wasn't a debilitating tragedy. Wait, this thing that I'm dealing with looks much easier to deal with than losing my loved one. So I can deal with this too.
And not only that, but you're part of a grand sweeping narrative now. You're part of the history, part of the story. You're in the action.
Yeah.
You're on the inside.
If that's not empowering to people out there, my God, you know what?
Do some heroin.
Dopamine.
Now.
I know.
Not actually
dealers.
Endorsing that.
Metaphorically.
How do you metaphorically?
I know several dealers.
Just kidding.
That was an allegory.
Okay, yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding, of course, but
you're gonna get a space heroine from the future.
There's a movie about that stars Dolph Lundgren, a sci-fi movie.
Of course there is.
Oh, it's great.
There's also a sci-fi movie.
It was known as Dark Angel in Europe, and in America, it was called I Come in Peace.
I'm guessing that it sounds
dark. What? I like the first one.
Dark Angel. I loved it, but
I come in peace?
I come in peace because that's an actual line that this alien gangster, alien drug dealer, actually uses. I come in peace,
and you'll go in pieces.
Yes, indeed.
Did you? Please tell me you've seen it. Have you seen that movie?
No, I've seen the clip.
Damn it! Watch the movie. It's great.
Which one is it?
It's just so beautifully awful. It's hilarious.
Which one is this again?
I Come in Peace, starring Dolph Lundgren, actually a basketball player, good guy, alien cop.
Our man in North Korea. Is that who's this basketball player?
The basketball player, Jay Bilas. Matthias Hughes plays Talek, an extraterrestrial drug dealer, and then Bilas plays Ajak, an extraterrestrial police officer. Unlike Talek, he is fluent in English because plot device.
Universal translator?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. This will give me a little moment here to. Anybody remember the McLaughlin Group?
McLaughlin?
Is John McLaughlin? He had a panel discussion group on PBS or something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
He'd say.
He'd set a position.
Item. Yep.
An item.
Or an agenda.
And then.
Open it up.
Go. And it's like. It was the original Bloodsport.
Finish him.
Yeah,
you remember the Bloodsport debates on YouTube?
You had opposing views, of course. Had Pat Buchanan, that firebrand. Item 1, true or false?
Yeah.
Bring in the workers and bring up the rails. We got to lay down the tracks and tear up the trails. Open our heart, let the lifeblood flow. Gotta get on our way because we're moving too slow. Get on our way because we're moving too slow. Item 1, true or false?
What?
That was pretty much the basis for his...
No, he'd have a serious political point, supposedly, that he would begin with. He wouldn't begin with Gord's gold here like I do.
It's like, should we make...
Yes, item 1. Bridge to nowhere. For or against? Patch, go! I don't like this bridge to nowhere business. I'm telling you, it's a waste of time and money.
Anatomically correct Pepe plushies.
Clifton, go! And then she would give her position. Fantastic. This is sort of like a crossfire. Not a crossfire hurricane. Now, when you're doing your dirty deeds there in government, and you come up with an operation like that, Operation Crossfire Hurricane. This was the part of the big movement, the spying on the Trump people coming into office earlier there, years ago. They were inspired by Mick Jagger lyrics.
What?
Crossfire Hurricane, I believe, are Rolling Stone lyrics.
There's bells, they're just not ringing.
Item true. Bells or whistles, go.
Whistles.
Go.
Bells.
Ah, now we're talking. Bells, he says bells, you say whistles.
What?
Pistols at dawn.
Does he support and rebut first, or do I?
Support what
You are
first?
Support
and
rebut.
and rebut.
Support your argument and then send it back to me as a rebuttal.
Bells.
I mean, that seems fair on paper.
He hits it directly on the head. Man, if I had a prize, you'd have won it.
I don't know what I did.
You just flat out pretty much told the entire world why that showed.
The man wins a cigar.
That whole concept of what you just said, how it works. Well, it sounds good on paper.
Many things sound good on paper. For example, I don't know whether this is a good name for a Vietnamese stripper or a very bad name for a Vietnamese stripper. Razor wire. What do you think?
Depends on where it is.
I'm having visions
Joe
of the movie Teeth all of a sudden. Ugh.
Oh, God!
Oh, boy.
I've never seen that, but I can only imagine.
You've heard stories, yeah.
Vagina dentata.
They get a finger pull out of it. They'll lose an entire hand.
Razor blade is a very bad name.
Oh, God. We're going to have to edit that one out. Ugh. Yeah. I've seen the first half.
That could have been item 3.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good strip on the hand.
So
bad.
I think we should take a break.
All right. Well, that brings me to. Before you do anything, this brings me to the poetry section. Now we have Shel Silverstein, your favorite. Your favorite there. He likes.
Oh no.
I like where the sidewalk ends. This guy, he likes the giving tree. But here we go. This one's called we'll just do a selection for this. Can't read the whole thing. Don't have time. A very frosty Christmas. Let's see. An unbreakable vow, said Ron, looking stunned. Nah, he can't have. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure, said Harry. Why? What does it mean? Well, you can't break an unbreakable vow. I'd worked that much out for myself, funnily enough. What happens if you break it then? You die, said Ron simply. Wait a minute. Fred and George tried to get me to make one when I was about 5. This isn't poetry. I nearly did too. I was holding hands with Fred and everything. When Dad found us, he went mental, said Ron with a reminiscent gleam in his eyes. Only time I've ever seen Dad as angry as Mum. Fred reckons his left buttock has never been the same since. Yeah, well, passing over Fred's left buttock. I beg your pardon, said Fred's voice as the twins entered the kitchen. The heck is this? Is it Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince? Shel Silverstein. Dust jacket. Cut.
Let this criminal demonization in America begin to end here and now.
Sniff the same farts.
Maybe I'm not a human whisperer.
What?
Out of time. Bye-bye.